Honourable Member for St James North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I intervene in this debate, which is clearly an extremely significant debate in this parliamentary session, a debate where this Parliament is asking holders of debt instruments in their favour ordered by the government of Barbados to facilitate the restructuring of these instruments through a voting process set out in the Act, process which would bind all the affected creditors in terms of a comprehensive debt restructuring process, and which would give Barbados more elbow room than we have at present. Mr. Speaker, this government came into office just 4 months ago on the massive endorsement of 75% of the voting public of Barbados. We found an economy third most indebted in the world, with debt to GDP at 170, 175%, including debt owed to local institutions, to local people, all debt. Totally unsustainable. This government was confronted a week after coming into office with having to face an $80 million debt repayment from the Credit Suisse undertaken by the previous DLP government. We took a decision that we could not pay that particular installment of debt. And so, you know, I always say that the majority of females who have to run houses in Barbados, because we know that the majority of households in Barbados are run by females, would have been better ministers of finance than anyone who sat on the government benches in the last parliament, because they run, in a lot of cases, households on less than substantial earnings or income, and are able to manage that. A mother will say, I have to feed my children today, I have to send them to school, I have to buy clothes for them, I have to sustain this family, and therefore, if for a month or two I can't pay for the fridge or the TV from one of the hire purchase companies, they're going to make that sacrifice in the interest of their household. That was the decision that confronted the Barbados Labour Party government, and we took the decision that we could not take $80 million out of foreign reserves left at $220 million at that stage to pay that debt. No government in the history of the Caribbean has come into office facing those kind of crisis situations. And it's credit to the Honourable Prime Minister and her economic team, including the presenter of this debate there today, the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, and the Honourable Member for St Michael's South Central, who will no doubt intervene in this debate as well. And to others, I'm calling them in a positive light, Ambassador Clyde Maskell, Avanis Prasad, the consultants that we heard of today, sir, they're worth every single cent that they're paid by this government to bring us to this stage within 4 months where we are restructuring our debt to save the Barbados dollar, sir. I have not come across one person, not one, and I challenge any person who opposes what we're doing today to bring any Barbadian person who says, don't worry with what we're doing today, let's devalue the dollar, whether it's 8 to 1, 16 to 1, whatever. Because as was said last week, then you're asking for all of us now to be poor, except of course those who made their millions of dollars, whether in construction monies or legal fees or just in terms of corrupt practices over the last 10 years. Everybody else is going to be poor, sir. So this is the choice that we have. There is no other choice. And full credit to the Honourable Prime Minister and her economic team, who, as the Honourable Member for St. George South said earlier, were working on rescuing Barbados for 18 months prior to the election, working on strategies, on schemes, negotiating with international players, obtaining assistance from legal and international experts who have done this before in other parts of the globe, working on a plan so that we could hit the ground running. Because you would recall, sir, the day after the election, the Honourable Member for St. Michael, North East would have met with the social partners, with the central bank top management, and would have hit the ground running. Within 3 days, a cabinet in place. Some would say it's large, sir, but each and every cabinet minister, sir, stranded, outstretched with work, all hands on deck to rescue this country. And therefore, a staff office arrangement with the IMF concluded in record time, 3 months. No other country in the world having reached this stage in negotiations with the IMF, just waiting to be endorsed now at their executive level. But, sir, you know, we would be criticized, and it's a free country, sir, democracy, sir, about how we put in people at risk, pensioners at risk, old people at risk. My reading of the situation, sir, is that this government has tried its hardest, done all that is possible within the circumstances of a tremendous debt, of lack of foreign reserves, to ring-fence the most vulnerable in this country. We've brought, sir, a resolution which was approved in this Parliament for the payment of an increased cost of living allowance at the rate of 3.3% per annum to government pensioners, with effect retroactively, sir, 1st of April 2018. We weren't even in office at the time, sir. That has been approved by this Parliament, was approved on the 14th of August by the Senate the next day, and is part of the law of Barbados. This Parliament, sir, raised non-contributory pensions by 50%. Never before in the history of Barbados have non-contributory pensioners got such a large percentage increase. Again, to help protect the older people in this country, sir. Substantial percentage of whom will be people with disabilities. Within this same bill, sir, which is before your Parliament today, pensioners, people of pensionable age, 67 and over, are getting preference in terms of their payment of principal and interest in a more speedy time than those who are not pensioners. We have realized, sir, that a caring government, which we are, has to do those kind of interventions to protect the most vulnerable in society, those who are not getting any income from any employment anymore. As the honourable member who just spoke, the honourable member for St. Michael, West Central, we've increased the welfare budget in the budget of June 11th by $5 million. Again, to give greater space, economic space to those who will have to participate in that because of any undue hardship which may come to them and their families. We have, sir, sought to, before concluding any arrangement with IMF, bring back state-funded tuition fees to university students of Barbadian citizenship in this country, sir. That alone, and you're talking about social intervention, sir. I'm sure in your constituency, sir, I know in mine, dozens more back in university from 2 weeks ago, with the $8,000 in tuition fees being paid by the government of Barbados, sir, being given an opportunity to reach the top, to fulfill their talents. As every able-bodied Barbadian, capable Barbadian, mentally alert Barbadian should have the opportunity to do, whether in terms of academic skills or other technical and vocational skills. That is what this government did immediately. We again, sir, remove two of the most iniquitous taxes ever passed by this Parliament of Barbados since adult suffrage. NSRL, which not only was a 10% tax, but a 10% on top of everything else, on top of the VAT, everything else, sir. So the cumulative effect of that was much more than 10%. We removed that before any of this. Yes, sir, the government will now have to ensure that those who are providers of goods and services don't take advantage and bring down their prices. We have to protect the consumers, and therefore we have to be watchdogs. In these cases, all the bureaucratic agencies that have the mandate to watch prices and increase in prices or decrease have to be on their guard. And yes, we will have as a government to seek to ensure that they do their job, that nobody is to rip out nobody's eye in this country, sir, because they may be poor. We also, sir, abolish the municipal solid waste tax, tax that the last government themselves didn't understand, sir, because the then honourable member for St. Lucie, and praise to the Lord, you heard the new member, the present member for St. Lucie today, sir, honourable member, and you understand why people of St. Lucie now feel proud, because that member then, under the last government, he didn't understand the tax. It was clear during the debate, but he was part of a government that didn't understand it either. All they were doing was taking up people's money in tax and nothing to show for it. No infrastructural development, students paying school fees, bare taxes on your case, and the country in debt. So we have brought in those interventions socially already, sir, and economically, fiscally, to try to protect especially the most vulnerable in Barbados. But yes, sir, everybody has to share in this sacrifice, because as been said, sir, the country on May 24th is bankrupt, sir, insolvent. And I mean, we have to understand that. But the government still finds 5% across the board to pay all public servants, which was their due, not having been paid any increase in salary for a whole 10 years, sir. A whole 10 years. 5% increase in salary again within the first 2 months. In fact, named in the mini budget, the budget of 17 days after the Barbados Labour Party came into office. All of that, sir, that cannot be done or sustained without a restructuring of the debt, because you cannot afford to pay 1/3 of your tax earnings in debt and expect to sustain growth or development of your people? It is impossible. This is needed, sir. A savings of $500 million annually in debt repayments to protect the sanctity of the Barbados dollar, to protect the peg at 2-to-1 US, which each and every Barbadian agrees ought to remain the same. And in that regard, sir, to protect the welfare of Barbadians and the sustainability of this country. That's the long and short of it, sir. Without this, sir, we will not be able to do the trust loans, which the Honourable Member for St. George South spoke about under his ministry, whereby people in self-employment or those who want to go into self-employment will be able to borrow loans from the government of Barbados to either advance or start their own businesses at very low interest rates, 2.5% or 3%, whatever it is, with moratorium grace period to repay. Something similar to what was done at a different level, for example, in Bangladesh, which was extremely successful. And in Kenya, I believe they do it as well. Without what we're doing today, sir, and we urge those debt instrument holders to vote for this bill, sir, in the interest not only of the country of Barbados, the Barbados brand, but for themselves and their families and their communities, sir. Without this, we will not be able to do the Building Blocks program for youth, which the enthusiastic and energetic member for Christchurch, West Central, sir, Minister of Youth Affairs, has put together, sir, whereby blocks in your constituency and blocks in my constituency, like in Thunder Bay, because we went down Thunder Bay together, will be empowered, sir, in terms of jobs and technical ability, coming together as communities to empower themselves and advance in terms of employment and self-employment opportunities. Without this, we will not be able to advance our program whereby communities, disadvantaged communities and persons with disabilities will be able to tender for government procurement and will be able to have an advantage in terms of getting government contracts, which is what this government intends to do. Without this, we will not be able to tackle a lot of the mission critical agenda which this government came into office promising on our manifesto, and which the people of Barbados massively endorsed on the 24th of May with their X in favour of the Barbados Labour Party. We will not be able to buy the garbage trucks which each and every Barbadian understands needs to be bought, and which the Honourable Member for St. Michael East has vowed will start rolling into Barbados in 2 months' time. We will not be able to buy transport board buses, sir, which somehow declined from a fleet of about 190 in January 2008 when the Barbados Labour Party left office to below 70 on May the 24th, and which the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, who spoke so dramatically in here today, and his Minister of State, the Honourable Member for St. Lucie, have miraculously, within 3 months, increased the fleet by 50%, sir, from less than 70 to 110 at the start of the school term. And all credit to those two ministers, sir, and to the chairman of the Transport Board as well on this effort. Without this, sir, we will not be able to keep a handle on the sewerage mess which we found on coming into office on the South Coast, threatening in Bridgetown as well, which the Honourable Member for Christchurch East has led from the front and got under control in a couple months after the last government in a whole couple years couldn't find any solution for. This is what we're in here talking about, sir. And we can't only be thinking, yes, as some people will, about how I now lose this interest and this money. This is a situation, sir, where all of us are in this together. And all of us have to make some sacrifice to put Barbados back on the map again as one of the leading developing countries in the world, as one of the leading small island states in the world, where we can hold our head in pride again in any part of the world. We have started that process, sir. Investment confidence, as the Honourable Member for St. James South said, is returning to Barbados. A major university, Ross University, we didn't go after it, sir. And we have empathy, sir, with our sister, CARICOM Nation, Dominica, on this issue, and we will assist her. But we didn't go after Ross. Ross came to us, sir. And that is an expression of confidence in this new Barbados administration, sir. Our Honourable Prime Minister has led this government, this country from the front, every step of the way. Barbadians informed as to the process, as to what we are doing. Dialogue, consultation with every major group, every group in this country, whether it's business, whether it's trade unions, whether it's agriculture, whether it's the people being invited to and responding positively to a questionnaire. 93 questions, over 5,000 people responding on how to help restructure and modernize this country in terms of the state-funded enterprises. And we, the ministers, the parliamentary team, following suit, and following our leader, and with energy committing ourselves to the task as never before, sir. Because the future of this country is at stake. And it isn't only about us, it's about our children, our grandchildren, in some cases not yet born, sir, and it can go wrong. We were on the precipice. It was like a patient, sir, who required heart surgery. You're delaying, the last government delaying that heart surgery, making the decision, and the patient almost dead, and it falling on these new doctors now to try and save the life of this patient. Critical stage, hard choices to make, but those hard choices being made for the future of this country. We will stamp out corruption, sir, because that was part of the problem too. Corrupt practices all around for the last 10 years. People being allowed to do what they want to do, ministers, suddenly multimillionaires overnight, and their associates, law partners and shadows, sir. All of that. We already brought in, sir, before this Parliament, Integrity in Public Life Act, And all of us signing codes of conduct, sir. Not only us, sir, but you got to disclose your spouses too, sir. Some persons probably didn't even know what the spouses were for, sir. But that disclosure handed the Cabinet Secretary. All of that is part of it. Reform of the educational system, sir. Ministry of Smart Technology to improve ease of doing business in this country, sir, for people. And that is fundamental, because you can't be taking 5 years for an application at immigration, sir, of which I have ministerial responsibility, or police certificates of character that 85% of the Barbadians need to get a job, taking 7 weeks, sir. All of that we're working on. Honourable Minister of Smart Technology in the other place, sir. And that's why you have the creation of that ministry. Public entertainment licenses, bear hassle, driver's license, all of that will soon be things of the past. All of that, sir, is part of what we're dealing with here today. Town planning reform, sir. This government has pledged to bring before this Parliament, before the end of the year, new town planning legislation. Because the town planning legislation came into force in Barbados around the time of independence, and a green paper already before Cabinet on that particular issue. All of that to ease the business, ease doing business in this country, to make Barbados more competitive again, from a situation where every year we were declining in terms of our competitiveness globally, from 72 in 2012 down to 139 out of 160 countries measured last year or 2 years ago. We need this to attract new business, to attract new investment in the renewable energy sector, in the creative and artistic industries, in the educational and health services, in the agro-industries, in research, in international business sector and tourism, and in high-tech and software development, sir. We need this to retool and empower our people, to retrain and enfranchise our public sector workers, sir. So therefore, a training levy of $30 million being established to do this, $30 million annually into retooling and empowering and retraining and enfranchising our public service sector workers. So all of this can only be done if what we are doing today passes. We have to modernize this government to save our dollar. We have therefore, sir, this government brought as well close association with this bill, Barbados Economic Reform and Transformation Plan, aimed at restoring our macroeconomic stability, while at the same time placing this country and this economy on a path of sustainable and inclusive growth. So as has been repeatedly said by honourable members on this side, in this government, sir, today, we will overcome, sir. We will stop these consecutive downgrades, 22 under the last government. We will return this country to growth. Once these plans are in place, sir, within 2 years, there will be some pain, sir. But after the pain, there will be joy, sir. As has been said today, the 30 of us in here can't do it alone. We call on all Barbadians to help us, sir. We know that, sir. 30 people out of 270,000 cannot achieve all of this. Everyone has to buy in to make their sacrifice. So we have sought, as I said, to protect the most vulnerable in the country. We will ensure that all people, sir, still are able to sustain themselves with the help of their families. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital has been given money, sir, $10 million, I believe, in the budget. The health services improving, the educational services as well. We are, of course, negotiating in terms of opening 2 polyclinics on a 24-hour-a-day basis. All of that to improve the social fabric of this country while we deal with the economic and fiscal problems. So we will overcome, sir. I have no doubt, sir. Barbadians are resilient people. We've been through slavery. We've been through the 1930s and the riots, and we've survived, and we've emerged to the top, sir, under this Barbados Labour Party. We've had to rescue Barbados before, and we will rescue Barbados again with the help of the Lord Almighty and with the help of all Barbadian people who have the stake, the future stake of this country in their hearts, sir. I'm obliged to you.